One of the complaints I hear sometimes is that the Bible is full of a lot of religious stuff, theological stuff, but short on good practical advice to help me get through my day. Well, let me just say that I disagree with that sentiment. I know the Bible to be chock full of practical advice. And today we're going to look at one bit of advice straight out of the Bible. A bit of advice that I think is perhaps more pertinent and helpful than it's ever been. Before we get to that advice, we need to set up the situation. Over the next minute or so, I'm going to put some stuff on the screen. Stuff that we deal with on a daily basis. It's stuff that's just a part of our world. Some of this stuff could be characterized as important or even essential stuff. Other things may not be essential or even important if we're honest about it, but it's basically impossible to avoid. It's there in front of us, all around us really, so we have to deal with it. Let's start with the news. I suppose we could walk around oblivious to what's going on in the world, but that's probably not advisable or helpful. How can we be a light to the world if we aren't even aware of what's going on in the world? And of course, there's the world of politics. Once again, we could ignore all of this, but is that really the wise thing to do? The government has a huge role in what's legal, illegal, things like freedom of speech, freedom of religion. These things matter in our lives. Pretty hard to not at least be a little bit aware of it. Moving on, what about sports? I know very few people that aren't interested in at least some portion of the sports world. Football, baseball, basketball, tennis, golf, etc., etc. Sports are a big part of our culture and probably fair to say a big part of our economy. And of course, there's all the social media options these days and online entertainment options. The statistics of how much time we spend looking at our phone and tablet, our screens, is sobering. It's only going to be more common as we go forward. Then there's the reality that it takes money to live in this world. So to some degree or another, we have to spend some time keeping track of our money, whether it's in the checking account or retirement account or money we're saving for that vacation. Spending time managing our money is just a reality of life. And every time I turn around, someone's telling me about a new podcast I need to listen to. Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, and a few others actually have more viewers than some of the major news networks. These are likely going to become more and more a part of our daily lives. Okay, the screen's getting crowded, but we haven't even mentioned all the networks and cable television options out there. Chicago PD, NCIS, Dancing with the Stars, The Voice, The Bachelor, Yellowstone, the list goes on and on. The screen is pretty full, isn't it? And just think, we haven't even shown all the other things available on the internet. The good, the bad, and the ugly that's at our fingertips. And what about video games? I hear that business is still doing pretty good. And we also haven't touched on music really either. Maybe you can't go to the record store in the local shopping mall like I used to, but there's more music streaming services than I can count. I know a lot of people who are kind of obsessed with music. Always have to have some music playing. Okay, that's enough. What's the point? Why bother to mention all these things? Well, because that's the world we live in. You know, that saying, you are what you eat? Well, the same logic applies to what we see and hear. The things we watch, the things we read, the things we listen to affect who we are. As much as we want to pretend they don't, we're just lying to ourselves. Of course they do. What we consume affects who we are. And that brings us around to our very practical advice from the Bible. Paul wrote a letter to his fellow Christians, his fellow saints in the city of Philippi. As he got near the end of that letter, he wrote this: "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable. If there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Think about these things. These things, not the other things, not those things that aren't pure or honorable or just or true. Don't be thinking about those kinds of things. Spend your mental energy thinking about things that are true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, commendable, excellent, worthy of praise. It's no great mystery why Paul would give them this instruction. We know that what we take into our minds affects who we are. It affects our values, our thought processes, our priorities, our character, our principles. What we take into our minds affects what comes out of our mouths. And Jesus said that what comes out of our mouths actually comes from the heart. It actually serves as a very clear indicator of what kind of person we really are. So, we need to put the right stuff into our minds so the right stuff will be in our hearts. Now let's calibrate just for a minute. Are we saying that we shouldn't watch the news? That we shouldn't know who is in charge of our government and what they're doing? Or that it's wrong to ever scroll on social media for a couple of minutes? Or that it's a sin to watch a TV show? No, that's not the point. The point is, have we left any space or time to think about those things that Paul instructed the Philippians to spend time thinking about? The pure things, the true things, the honorable things, the praiseworthy things. If we put all that stuff we mentioned a couple of minutes ago back on the screen, where's the room for those things that Paul said to think about? Because let's at least be honest enough with ourselves to acknowledge that most of the things on the screen right now don't match up with Paul's advice. Maybe some very small percentage would qualify. But the vast majority of this stuff is not going to make the cut. It's not in line with Paul's advice. Thinking about the things that Paul advises takes discipline and purpose. The stuff the world throws at us every day is rarely going to fall into one of these categories that Paul mentioned. So it's up to us to make room for that stuff. It's up to us to open the Bible and read it. It's up to us to stop scrolling through cat videos or car crash videos or people doing stupid stuff videos and spend a few minutes listening to a daily devotional or crazy idea here. Just spend a couple of minutes in prayer. This is very practical advice that Paul gives because it's completely within our control. It's a simple choice we can each make, and it's practical because it will change who we are. Garbage in, garbage out, as they say. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can choose to take in truth, purity, honor, love, excellence. It's completely within our control. I just want to close with a compliment to each of you that's made it this far in the video. This may not be some life-changing video, but it's honest, it's truth, it's focused on being excellent and commendable in the eyes of God. So good job. You're putting Paul's practical advice in action. And I hope in at least some small way you've been encouraged to do more and more and more of that and follow Paul's practical advice. Thanks for listening. God bless you on your journey.